I've always had a complex relationship with Neil Gaiman as a writer. He's one of those people, when I love his work, I love his work. When I hate it, I hate it. There is no middle ground. Yeah, recent allegations and stuff that people have refused to talk about have been quite interesting. I've avoided making a video on this subject, and I felt like I needed to just talk about this. So, for early access, exclusive content, and a few other perks, please consider becoming a channel member or joining my Patreon. So let's start the show. It's been interesting watching as these allegations of Neil Gaiman have come forward more and more. Neil Gaiman, a star power celebrity writer with a reputation for good literary work, yet I find his books very mixed. I love Stardust and American Gods, yet I find many of his books boring and predictable. The Ocean at the End of the Lane, for example. Recently, 2 women have come forward with allegations of assault against Gaiman, and there have been many more, but I'm going to focus on these main 2. The new allegations add to a growing list of women who have spoken out against the celebrity writer, raising serious concerns about his conduct and behaviour. The allegations, of why people choose to remain anonymous for their safety and privacy, both allege that Gaiman was manipulative, painting a disturbing picture of a man who has long been reviled for his creative genius. One of his accusers, a former collaborator, claims that Gaiman used his influence and position to pressure her into unwanted activities. She describes a pattern of manipulation and allegedly, I will be using that word way too much, exploited professional interactions to initiate inappropriate non-consensual contact. The second woman, who Gaiman met at a literary event, recounts a similar experience. She alleged that Gaiman quickly turned to manipulation tactics, culminating in an incident of SA, where she provided a detailed account of the event and stating that Gaiman's actions left her feeling violated and powerless. These allegations against Neil Gaiman are part of a larger ongoing conversation. There have been rumours about Gaiman's conduct for decades. When you start looking into it, the fact that Reddit banned all discussion of this in many of the forums and subreddits, or whatever they're called, and people openly tried to sweep this under a rug. Neil Gaiman as a writer is someone that I've met. I found him engaging and charming, and I can see when you're in that position how easy it is to manipulate people around you, especially people who want to get their careers off the ground or work with someone on apparently Neil Gaiman's level. Neil Gaiman is also a notorious hypocrite, and honestly, what he says and what he does are 2 massively different things, and openly supporting AH is also a red flag. I do feel like there needs to be a larger discussion within the publishing industry, and if you head over to my second channel, you can hear videos about it. From truths from literary agents and stories that I've heard from other people, be it professional overstepping, manipulation, and many other things. It's interesting to watch these allegations flow, and how muted the conversation was. Neil Gaiman, as a writer, has written some phenomenal books. Stardust is my favourite. I want to say that. He's written many bad ones. Neil Gaiman sits there as this very weird figure in the industry, and there have been countless stories in the past that all seem to disappear very quickly. Neil Gaiman, as a writer, I think his career is basically done. I think it's done. There are too many similarities of his behaviour, too many stories that line up perfectly, and too many other things. It all seems to fit too well. Allegedly, Gaiman's behaviour within the professional industry is paramount and obvious, and it really does say a hell of a lot. These allegations against him have created a sense of mistrust, and the fact that he left the country, and in my own opinion, no one else's, innocent people don't run. The literary community needs to create spaces that are safer for everyone. As someone who has been essayed, or attempted essay, by a figure within the literary community, it's an interesting thing to watch. Because any discussion of it, if they're well liked, is completely muted. And yes, I do believe people are innocent until proven guilty. And I do feel like we need to have a good conversation on that. But there are too many similarities in my brain just to not talk about this and think what's happening. Neil Gaiman, as a creative, has influenced my writing, although I think originality in his writing is lacking. The literary community is now faced with a difficult reckoning. His influence is vast, and those allegations challenge the perception of a beloved figure. These revelations have sparked discussions about power dynamics within the literary world, and concerning how influential figures can exploit their position. Neil Gaiman has not issued a public statement regarding these latest allegations, and his silence has been met with a very mixed reaction, some expressing disappointment and others calling for a thorough investigation before judgment. Support for the accusers has been growing, and many taking to social media to express solidarity. Prominent figures in the literary world and entertainment industry have called for an environment within publishing where survivors can feel safe without fear. Although, again, there is always a counterpoint to this in the discussion, because people could use this to manipulate situations as well. Neil Gaiman's involvement in the literary space is fascinating, and the fact that he is allegedly not allowed near certain people under a certain age is very telling. I think it's under 19. I do feel like there needs to be a broader discussion within the industry and how it works and what's it doing. The industry as a whole is in not a very good path, and Neil Gaiman was one of the few writers that is still selling. He could release a 200-page blank book with the word no at the final page, and it would sell thousands of copies, let's be real. And hailed as a literary masterpiece for one word on a page. I do think survivors and other people need to be talked to, and I feel like we're going to hear a lot more before this calms down. I do believe in innocence before guilt, but when so many stories and everything's lining up, and things are just too freaky, there are some weird stories coming out of this. I do wonder what the future will be. Neil Gaiman, as a writer, maybe his career is over, maybe it will survive, maybe whatever, but we need to have this conversation. The fact that it was muted, the fact that it was not talked about for the longest time is very telling. And rumours have been persisting in the industry for many years. So, I will leave this here and I'll talk to you guys later. Bye.